Drought and desert encroachment remain severe challenges in northern Nigeria, worsened by the effects of climate change. With a semi-arid to arid climate, this region usually experiences a rainy season from June to September. But climate change is disrupting these patterns, leading to either extreme droughts or devastating floods. For farmers like Ishaku Ahmad in Kano State, unpredictable weather patterns have drastically reduced harvests. Despite investing heavily in his cassava farm, this year's yield has been disappointing.
The seasons have really changed. In fact, we don't have enough rain like we used to before. During the planting season, there is usually enough rainfall that will help our crops grow, but not anymore. Whenever it rains, it's not sufficient for our crops to grow. Even the pests that destroy our crops have increased this season. This is not good for us. We're not making enough gain from our harvest like before.
In 2007, 11 African nations launched the Great Green Wall Initiative, a pan-African afforestation program aimed at restoring 100 million hectares of degraded land along the Sahel by 2030. In Nigeria, this effort is led by the National Agency for the Great Green Wall, established in 2015. Despite its ambitious goals, the initiative has only achieved about 50% of its target in Nigeria. In Jigawa State, a date palm nursery in Dutse, valued at 250 billion naira, aims to inject nearly 40 trillion naira into the local economy. The goal is to plant 5 million trees this year and 50 million by 2030.
A plant of this, a tree, will produce not less than 200 kilogram per year. And I'm going to tell you that this date palm you're seeing, it fruits twice a year in Nigeria. If a tree of dates produces 200 kilogram, if you go to Shuari market, you will buy a module of dates, which will give you nothing less than 8,000 naira per module. So when you convert it to the 200 kg, it will give you 800,000 naira per stand. So GGW plans to give out 20 seedlings to a farmer. So there is no one, if he's fully aware that he will earn 16 million naira per annum, that will not put his best in making sure that this grows and gives him the result.
In Megatari, a 10-hectare neem tree plantation serves as a woodlot, providing fuel for local communities. However, reports of encroachment and illegal felling of trees are raising concerns.
The major challenges we had is the issue of thefts of the angle iron, the cattle fencing wire, and sometimes even encroachment by cattle herders, and sometimes trampling on the plants by the animals. If you understand that sometimes we have some gaps which we try to also fill in terms of sensitizing and resensitizing the community member, engaging them in all the activities, not only the forestry activity, we also have like livelihood activities.
Adding to these setbacks in Jigawa State, about 10 forest guards are assigned to protect this plantation. Yet, many fail to show up due to low wages, earning just 20,000 naira per month.
They used to pay us 1,020 naira per day, but now they have stopped paying us. It's almost 1 year.
There are 75 project sites in Katsina State, but due to security concerns, some have been abandoned. For instance, in Jibia, near Zamfara State, about 7 project sites, including boreholes intended to support nursery beds, and the local community have been neglected because of ongoing terror attacks and banditry in the state. Well, for the safety of myself and my team, we were only able to visit limited project sites in the state.
In Suduje and Sukunawa communities in Katsina State, residents initially hoped the afforestation project would reduce farmer-herder clashes. But today, little progress has been made. Villagers claim they weren't consulted and the trees were planted at the wrong season.
I remember at the onset of the program, the minister visited our village. 1 year after the commencement of the project, we witnessed the plantation of grasses for pastures, which greatly helped us in feeding our animals. But after some time, things started deteriorating, and we made attempts to notify the authorities, but up to then, almost everything was gone. Most of the trees planted did not see the light because they were not properly looked after. Most of the planted trees dried up even before maturity. Even the barbed wire that was used to protect the trees was vandalized. As I speak to you now, everything is gone. Nothing is visible in those sites. What I observed is that the trees were planted at the wrong time and we were not involved directly.
We can see what they are doing and believe it will be of great help to our community. The pace of work was slow, but so far they have tried. Our livestock can now feed well on the pastures. We don't need to go far for our livestock to feed. Animals like sheep, goats and cattle feed there. Initially, there was nothing for the animals to feed on, but we want the government to urgently complete the project. The inconsistent execution of the project is not helpful, especially without enough rainfall.
Yet in other areas like Maiduwawa, progress is visible. A 40-kilometer neem tree plantation now serves as a shelter belt against desert encroachment. However, only 12% of degraded land in this region has been restored since 2015.
Sometimes we'll find it very difficult to come to an area like this, especially if it's an area that's been taken over by all this banditry and stuff like that. So it really brought about a lot of problems in the way we execute our projects. We need to do more. We need to do more, of course. The approach of this desertification, it is getting high if you look at this area. So definitely we need to do more. Funding is something that really will help us, support us to do all this kind of plantation. And at times we do have issues with ownership of this particular land. At times, out of this shelter belt, we'll have different kind of planting models. For instance, orchards. This orchard does not really has to be done in this area. We get to the community, liaise with people, they give us their land and we do the establishment. At times, some people will willingly give us the land, but unfortunately, at the event of the program, the establishment of the orchard, they will come and revoke it back.
The situation in Kano shows a mixed bag of progress. In Makoda local government area, more projects are thriving. Volunteers are managing seedlings here with a reliable water supply in place. These seedlings will then be distributed to farmers, contributing to the agency's broader afforestation efforts. Meanwhile, in Chideri community, locals appreciate the initiative but are asking for more.
They're assisting us to look after the forest by stopping people from destroying the forest. Most of the time, people come to notify me whenever there is a cutting down of trees. We truly appreciate their efforts to save the forest, but we also want them to support our livelihoods. Most of us don't have sustainable means of income. We need to take care of our families too. They should also help us just as we support this initiative.
In Janguza, there's a pilot project where an orchard planted last July is using a water-saving technique. This model is to help these trees survive the dry conditions of the region.
The unique thing about it is you can plant a tree or plant in places where there is virtually no water. And this has been our challenge. It's sourcing for water, getting water. With this technology, you could, with the initial 20 liters of water, you could plant that would reach maturity, at least with the rain water that falls, adds more water to it. Within a year or two, your trees are big enough that you can even remove the bulb and use it elsewhere.
Despite the progress made, some plantations in Gari local government area under the Great Green Wall in Kano has been cleared for a new project by another ministry. This setback hampers ongoing afforestation efforts.
This was formerly a 10-kilometer neem tree plantation, all cut down by the Kano State Ministry of Agriculture for a grass farm meant to produce animal feed. And further ahead is that 80 hectares of woodlots and Acacia Senegal all encroached and vandalized. And this development, the agency tells me, will affect its objective to restore degraded lands in the Sahel region.
This is a 10-kilometer shelter belt plantation that has been established about 2 years ago, and which is doing well. And all of a sudden, we saw a government awarding a different project of about 1,000 hectares and completely encroaching the whole of our sites. You can see the trees are cut off and dandelions being vandalized. Well, you can see when you talk about a 5 kilometer that it's fenced and with plantations, means hundreds of millions. The site was allocated to us by the Ministry of Environment, and I believe the ongoing project is being carried out by the Ministry of Agri. So there's a kind of, I don't think there's a synergy in between the two ministries.
Though the challenges are similar across the states visited, ongoing engagements with stakeholders is believed to be essential to help the agency meet its goals of restoring degraded lands in the Sahel and boosting food security.
The TGW to understand that in whatever the big time is of essence. In most cases, you realize that we are carrying out a afforestation project, but after the start of the rainy season, you realize that most of the seedlings are not even ready. So you plant late into rainy seasons. And one key challenge that maybe we are underestimating is that we are not carrying the communities along. You cannot just go into a community and start to plant a different species of tree without consulting them. I think projects like this are meant to be community-based, community-driven. So when they share in the ideas of what we're going to be, and they feel like they have put in their own inputs, then they will be able to own that project.
More commitment should be injected. Yeah, more relationships should be created between communities and the workers of the NAGGW, and more relationships or more collaborations between state governments and the NAGGW should be improved. You know, the issues of the climate change is there. That is why the state government, we are planting about 3 million trees. We are now raising 3 million trees in order to complement the effort of just like NAGGW.
Most shelter belts and woodlots planted along the Sahel corridor consist of non-native trees. While these trees thrive in semi-arid conditions, forestry experts argue that planting more native trees would ensure better community acceptance and long-term success.
When you look at the way that, for example, this neem tree we plant, I'm not saying that they are not important, but now looking at the population and food insecurity, we are supposed to pay more attention to the trees that can serve as food to both man and animals, or to man or to animal. You understand? So that we can be able to, even during the dry season, use them as food. Let me give an example. In the olden days, animals used not to eat these leaves of these neem trees. But now, because of hunger, they eat it. Why do they eat it? Because that is the only options they have. So, but when you give them like this mango leaf, it can eat it well without any problem. You understand? So we have reached to the time that we have to think of planting the kind of trees that can the leaves can be used to feed our animals, and also they can even bear fruits, so that the fruits also can be used by we humans, and the animals can use the leaves also to survive.
Reports from the National Agency for the Great Green Wall show that between 2021 and 2024, they produced 32 million seedlings, established more than 4,500 hectares of shelter belts, and created more than 1,700 woodlots across the 11 frontline states. The agency also engaged more than 1,300 forest guards and built 106 solar-powered boreholes to irrigate existing plantations. Despite these efforts, authorities acknowledge that meeting the 2030 target remains uncertain.
This wall we are trying to build does not start and stop only in Nigeria. We have started from Djibouti to Senegal. So on our own part, we are going to make do with what little we have. And then Mr. President, so let's consider that this thing must be achieved, and we are working hard to see that we reach the target. But I don't think if 2030, like we discussed in Riyadh recently in this COP16, the target of 2030 may be hard to realize, honestly. There are conflicts around the continent, so lots of these things are held back by these conflicts happening in those countries.
Funding remains a major challenge for the Great Green Wall. The project requires $33 billion, but progress has been hampered by delays, unfulfilled pledges, and poor coordination among stakeholders. In 2021, French President Emmanuel Macron and other leaders launched the Great Green Wall Accelerator, pledging $14.3 billion for 2021 to 2025. However, by March 2023, only $2.5 billion had been disbursed. Reports from the National Agency for the Great Green Wall show that between 2018 and 2024, the project received 12 billion naira, with about 2.5 billion naira spent on tree planting across the 11 states. The agency also revealed that in 2020, funding from the Ecological Fund was slashed from 15% to just 5%.
The issue of combating desertification and land degradation is always a work in progress. You cannot achieve it overnight. So we need continuous funding from government and other donor agencies so that we can succeed in the end. You know, lands are vested in the state governments. They give us land to do our afforestation projects. So if they say they are going to take the land away from us, we have nothing to say. But what I'm asking the state governments to do is, if they want to give us land, please let us not get land that is far away from the people. That is when we plant there, we lose our assets. Vandals will go there and take away the fencing, boreholes, overhead tanks, and other things.
Transparency concerns have also plagued this project. By 2023, the House of Representatives discovered that 81.2 billion naira was allegedly spent on planting 21 million trees across the 11 states. Yet, financial reports showed discrepancies. The Central Bank of Nigeria reported only 9.4 billion naira in the agency's account, while the Accountant General's report indicated 19.4 billion naira had been released. Despite these irregularities, an ad hoc committee cleared the NAGGW of wrongdoing, stating that only 53.4 million naira had been released for tree planting between 2015 and July 2023. With funding gaps, community resistance, and accountability issues, the 2030 target appears increasingly uncertain. The Great Green Wall remains an ambitious vision, one that could redefine northern Nigeria's landscape. But will it be a lasting solution or just another unfulfilled promise in the fight against desertification? It's only a matter of time.